no possibility of taking a walk that day?
We had been wandering indeed, in the leafless shrubbery, and now in the morning.
The cold was so penetrating
that further outdoor exercise was now out of the question.
I was glad of it. I never liked long walks.
Dreadful to muse the thought of coming home in the raw twilight with nipped fingers and toes.
And saddened by the chidings of Bessie, the nurse, while humbled in the knowledge that I was playing while my cousins, Georgina and Eliza Reed, were pretty.
John, the brother, was 4 years older than I.
2 or 3 times a week, not once or twice a day, but continually.
Every nerve that had fear.
What were you the book?
I fetched it.
You have no business to take our books. You are dependent. Mama says you have no money. Your father left you none. I'll teach you to rummage through my bookshelves, for they are mine. All the house belongs to me, or will do in a few years. Now go by the door, out of the way of the mirror and the windows.
I did so,
Not at first aware what was his intention.
But when I saw him lift and poise the book,
and stand and act to her that instinctively started aside.
with a cry of alarm,
Not soon enough, however, the volume was flung. It hit me, and I fell.
Striking my head against the door and catching it.
She's like a wild thing. She's done nothing. Nothing, miss. You struck the young gentleman.
He struck me first. He struck me twice. He is a bully and a coward. He torments me.
He's your benefactress's son, your young master.
Master? How is he my master? Am I a servant then?
No, you are less than a servant. Miss, for you do nothing for your keep. Stay there and dwell upon your wickedness.
If you won't stay still, you must be tied down. Miss Abbott, lend me your garter.
I promise not to stir.
She never did so before.
But it was always in her, Bessie. I've told Mrs. often about my opinion of the child, and Mrs. agrees with me. She's an underhanded little thing.
You ought to know, Miss Eyre, that you are under obligation to Miss Reed. She took you in when your parents died. If she were to turn you out, you would needs must go to the poorhouse.
And you ought not to think yourself equal with the Mrs. and Master Reed. It is your place to be humble. One of these fine days, you mark my... Really?
Leave me alone, not in the red room. Mr. Reed died in here. It's haunted.
You'll do well to say your prayers then, won't you, miss? For if you don't repent, something evil might be permitted down that chimney to fetch you away. Or straight through that window, on big black wings, perhaps. Come, Bessie.
Don't leave me alone. No. Don't leave me alone.
As I indicated in my letter, Mr. Brocklehurst, the girl has neither the character nor the disposition I would wish. Should you admit her into Lowood School, I would be glad if the superintendent and teachers were instructed to keep a strict eye on her. I was just telling Mr. Brocklehurst, Jane, to instruct his staff to guard against your worst fault, a tendency to deceit, and I mention it again in your hearing, in the hopes that you may not attempt to impose on him or them.
Your size is small. So much. Your name, little girl?
Jane Eyre, sir.
No sight so sad as that of a naughty child. Tell me, where do the wicked go after death?
They go to hell.
And what is hell? Can you tell me that?
A pit full of fire.
And what must you do to avoid it?
I must keep in good health and not die.
How can you keep in good health? Children younger than you die daily. I just married a girl of 5 years old only a day or two since. A good little child whose soul is now in heaven. It is feared that the same cannot be said for you if you were summoned thence. Deceit's the sad fault of the child. A deceitful child is next thing to an outright liar.
I should wish her to be brought up in a manner best suiting her prospects, to be useful, to be kept humble. As for vacations, she will, with your permission, always spend them at the school.
Your instructions are perfectly judicious, madam. Humility is a Christian grace. Read it with prayer, our grandchildren. And now I must bid you good morning.
Go on! If I were, I should say I loved you, Aunt Reed, but I declare I do not love you. I just like you worst of anybody in the world. And this book about the liar, you may give it to your daughter Georgina, for it is she who tells lies and not I.
5 o'clock had hardly struck on the morning of the 19th of January. I was already up and nearly dressed.
I was to leave Gateshead that day by coach, which passed the walls at 6 a.m.
Bessie was the only person yet risen.
Did you go in and say goodbye to Miss Reed?
Your Mrs. Bessie has not been my friend. She has been my foe.
Don't say that, Miss Jane.
What does it matter? I shall soon have another set of people to dread.
If you dread them, then they'll dislike you.
As you do, Bessie?
No, miss. I'm fonder of you than of the other children.
You've never shown it.
And you're so glad to leave me.
Not at all, Bessie. Just now I'm rather sorry.
And I dare say if I were to ask you for a goodbye kiss, you wouldn't give it to me.
The coach is waiting. Go over, Sara.
Goodbye to Gateshead Hall.
How far is it?
50 miles.
That's a long way. I wonder if Mrs. Reed is not afraid to trust her so far with living.
She's a strange child. A lonely, frightened little thing. Be sure and take good care of her.
I remember but little of the journey here to Lowood Orphanage, except that we travelled from before first light until very late last. The unknown drove away my appetite.
This morning I was ravenous, except for the porridge that was given to us for breakfast was so burnt that hardly a girl I saw could manage more than a spoonful. Even a teacher said it was abominable stuff and shameful.
The circumstance, sir. The breakfast was so ill-prepared that the pupils could not possibly eat it, and I dare not let them remain fasting until...
Madam, allow me an instant. You are aware that my plan in bringing up these girls is not to accustom them to matters of luxury and indulgence, but to render them hardy, patient, self-denied. Should any little accidental disappointment of the appetite occur, a brief address to those accounts would not be mistimed. Or in a judicious instructor would take the opportunity of referring to the sufferings of the primitive Christians, to the torments of martyrs, to the exhortations of our blessed Lord himself, calling upon disciples to take up their cross and follow him, whose warnings a man cannot live by bread alone, but by every word that proceedeth out of the mouth of God, to whose divine consolation that ye suffer hunger or thirst for my sake. Happy are ye. Oh, madam, when you put bread and cheese and burnt pork into these children's mouths, you may very well feed their vile bodies, but you little think how you starve their immortal souls. Have them all sit down.
Sit down, girls.
Except Helen Burns. Straighten up, Burns. Burns, you poke your chin out most unpleasantly. Draw it in. I insist on you holding up your head, you dirty, disagreeable girl. It is new pupil, I perceive. I must not forget. Slate, come forward. Miss Temple, children, you all see this girl. You see that God has graciously given her the form that he has given to all of us. Who would think that the evil one has already found a servant and an agent within her? It is my duty to warn you of this girl. Exclude Miss Temple, you will advise staff to watch her carefully, to scrutinize her every action, to punish her body to save her soul. If indeed such salvation be possible, for this girl, this child, the native of a Christian land, worse than any little heathen who sent his prayers to Brahma and kneels before Juggernaut, this girl's a liar. She has been sent here by her benefactors to be healed, much as the Jews of old sent their sick to the troubled pool of
Bethesda.
Bethesda. I beg of you all, do not allow the waters to stagnate around her. Understand half an hour longer in that chair and let no one speak to her for the remainder of the day. Good morning, girls.
Good morning, Mr. Brocklehurst.
Class monitors, you will see to it that there is no talking until the bell rings for prayers. You will then proceed in single file and join the rest of the school in the assembly hall. Yes, Helen.
Shall I collect the slates, Miss Temple?
You may.
How much strength did I draw from that smile? How much friendship glowed in her eyes? It was as if a martyr, a hero I'd read about in books, had passed a slave or a prisoner on the street and given out strength in passing. I was not alone any longer.
Ere the half hour ended, 5 o'clock struck.
It was deep dusk, and I retired into a corner and sank down on the floor.
Overwhelmed with grief that seized me, I sank with my face to the ground.
Here I lay.
I thought how ardently I wished to die.
While sobbing, someone approached me. Helen Burns was near.
Helen, why do you stay with a girl whom everyone believes to be a liar? I know they despise me.
Jane, you are wrong. Probably no one neither dislikes nor despises you.
But if others don't love me, I would rather die than live. To gain some real affection from you or from Miss Temple, I would willingly submit to having a bone in my arm broken, or stand behind a kicking horse and let it dart itself at my chest.
Hush, Jane.
I came on the purpose to find you, Miss Eyre. I want you in my room with us. Miss Helen is with you. She may come too.
We went, following her guidance.
Threading through intricate passages and mounting a staircase before we reached her apartment. Is it over? Have you cried your grief away?
I'm afraid I shall never do that entirely.
Why?
Because I've been wrongly accused, and you, ma'am, and everybody else will think me wicked.
We shall think you what you prove yourself to be. If you obey the rules and continue to behave yourself, you will satisfy us.
Shall I, Miss Temple?
We will. We have 2 visitors. Would you please bring some extra cups and a little bit more bread and butter, as there is not enough for 3. Good night, Miss Helen. Have you coughed much today?
Not as much today, ma'am.
The pain in your chest.
It is a little better.
You girls are my guests tonight. Where's the extra bread and butter?
Miss Temple, Miss Harden says she's already sent up the usual quantity.
I have it in my power to supply deficiencies for this once. I was going to give you some of this fine seed cake to take with you, but as there is so little bread and butter, you must have it now.
My feet they are sore, and my limbs they are weary. Long is the way, and the mountains are warm. Soon will the twilight, just moonless and dreary, over the child. Why did they send me so far and so lonely? Up where the moors spread, and grey hard-hearted, and kind day for the steps of the poor orphan child. Yet distant and soft, the night breeze is blowing. Clouds there are none, and clear stars beam above. God in His mercy, protection is showing, comfort and hope to the poor orphan child. E'en should I fall by the broken bridge passing, or stray in the marshes by false hopes begun, still will my Father take to His bosom the poor orphan child.
Helen, are you awake, Helen?
Can it be you, Jane? It is past 11 o'clock. I heard the church bell chime not some minutes since.
They told me you were very...
You've come to say goodbye, then?
Are you going somewhere, Helen? Are you going home?
To my long home. My last home.
No. No, Helen.
I believe. I have faith. I'm going to God.
Where is God? What is God?
He is our Maker, Jane. Mine and yours. I believe both in His power and His goodness.
You are sure then, Helen, that there is such a place as heaven?
I am sure that there is a future state, and where I will meet Him face to face. He is my Father. He is my friend. I love Him, and He loves me. But my last coughing fit has tired me. But don't go, Jane. I like to have you with me.
I am here, Helen. No one shall take me away.
Jane, your feet are bare. Cover yourself with my quilt. Are you warm, darling?
Yes, Helen.
Good night, Jane.
Good night, Helen.
Wake up, Miss Eyre.
Wake up, Helen. Helen! Come back!
Come on, miss.
there.
There is thought that for strength should avail me, though both of shelter and kindred disparted. Heaven is our home, and the rest will not fail me. God is our friend to the poor.
Kind thoughts, dearest Jane, mean more to me than any other person.
They are heartfelt, Miss Temple. Forgive me, Mrs. Naismith, of that I assure you.
And what of you? What are you going to do now that you are a woman? You could stay at Lowood and continue teaching.
Teaching, yes, but not at Lowood. Without you there's no place for me.
Then where? And advertise?
Yes, and in the Yorkshire Herald, where I've seen several such situations both advertised and sought for. You enclose the money and the advertisement under a cover directed to the editor. God bless you both and keep you very happy.
If J.E., who advertised in the Yorkshire Herald of last Thursday, satisfactory references as to character and competency, situation can be offered here, where there's but one pupil, a little girl under 10 years of age, and where salary is £30 per annum. J.E. is requested to send references, name and address, and all other particulars in direction of Miss Fairfax, Thornfield, near Millcote, West Yorkshire.
You said there's someone called to see you.
To see me? You are mistaken, surely.
No, Miss Jane, there's no mistake.
Bessie! But you are fortunate enough to have found me one more day and I would have been gone from this place.
I knew that, miss, from the letter you wrote to Miss Reed.
Only because she is my legal guardian still and I needed her permission to leave here. But other than that, I've neither made contact with her nor set eyes on her these past 8 years. Bessie! Bessie!
I'm married now to Robert, the groom who you may remember, and we have 2 children, Bobby and Jane. When I heard Mrs. say you were going to another part of the country, I thought I'd set off and get a good look at you before you were quite out of my reach. You're not grown so very tall, Miss Jane, not so very stout. I dare say they've not kept you too well at this place. But here you are, a teacher now, in a room all to yourself.
Half a room, Bessie. There's a Mrs. Grimes who teaches history and Bible studies and geography, all to myself at Thornfield Hall. But I'm afraid you were disappointed in me, Bessie.
Why, no, miss, not at all. You are genteel enough. You look like a lady, and it's all I ever expected of you. You can play the piano?
Yes.
And can draw and paint?
Yes.
And have learned French?
I can both read it and...
We'll get on whether your relations notice you or not. Which brings me to another matter. Have you heard anything from your father's kinsfolk, the Eyres? Only one day, several months ago this was, a Mr. Eyre came to the house and asked to see you. The point of not arranged to see you. But I managed to pass a word with him, and he gave me this to pass on to you. He said he was your father's brother. His address, I think it is. He said he would dearly like to hear from you. And I from him, Bessie. Mrs. would scarcely give him the time of day. You know how short she can be with them she takes against, as well as anyone knows, Bessie. But we've such a little time to spend together, I would rather spend it talking more pleasant matters. Come, let us go out into the garden. You shall tell me all about your children. And I am anxious to hear your news, Miss Jane. Mrs. Athas secured a post as a governess.
Yes, to a family by the name of Fairfax, at Thornfield Hall near Millcote, where I shall have just one pupil I shall have charge of. What kind of folk they are, what manner of place it is, or even what I hope that my time at Thornfield might serve to provide me with happier memories than many of those I shall take with me from Lowood.
Miss Adele, are you upstairs or down?
La belle. Voici la belle. Voici.
I am my wits' end, lass. Your nursery tea has gone begging on the table, crab cold, I should wonder, and... that can stop where it is for now.
I am Jane Eyre.
Shall you come in, ma'am? I'll mix you some hot water and wine and fetch you some sandwiches. Miss Fairfax will be here directly.
Miss Eyre, I'm Miss Fairfax.
Pleased to meet you.
Take off those things and come over by the fire. You'll see frozen after all that time in the coach.
I have the pleasure of meeting Miss Fairfax tonight.
Miss Fairfax? Oh, and you mean Miss Weyrens. Your pupil's name is Weyrens. Adele Weyrens. She's not related to me. I have no family. It's hardly why Thornfield is such a lonely place, except for the service. But I'm afraid we'll be getting out of order soon, unless Mr. Rochester should take it into his head to come and live here permanently.
Mr. Rochester? Who is he?
Thornfield Hall belongs to you.
To me? Bless you, child. What an idea. I'm not the housekeeper. Adele's Mr. Rochester's ward. She's French and speaks very little English, which is hardly why I was required to find a governess for her.
What kind of man is Mr. Rochester?
One that has travelled widely. He's a gentleman's tastes and habits and expects things to be done the way he likes them.
Is he himself a likable man?
His tenants would say he's a fair and liberal landlord, although I don't think he's spent much time amongst them.
Excuse me. Do you like him?
I've not had much conversation with him. I dare say he's clever, but he's a strange man to know.
Sorry, it's been a long traveling day.
Just yourself. Leah, here's Leah with your supper. Perhaps Miss Eyre would like to take you to your room. She's been traveling since early morning. There's been a fire in there for several hours, and she have your things unpacked.
Thank you, Leah. I would like to see my room.
Miss Eyre, when you do meet Mr. Rochester, whether or not you understand him is of very little consequence. He's a good man.
What was that?
One of the servants, very likely. Perhaps Grace Poole. She serves in one of the upstairs rooms. Grace! She has Leah with the house for her. Too much noise, Grace. Remember the rules. She's not the most forthcoming of servants, but she does all that is asked of her. Good night, Miss Eyre.
Good night, Mrs. Fairfax.
Bones broken, I shall manage well enough.
I can hardly leave you, sir, at so late an hour, when your horse is bolted and you can plainly not walk.
I should think you ought to be at home yourself if you have a home in the neighborhood. Where do you come from?
Come from just below, and not afraid of being out tonight when there's a mood to guide me.
You live just below, you said. Do you mean at that house with the battlements?
Yes, sir.
Whose house is it?
Mr. Rochester's.
And do you know Mr. Rochester?
I have not met him, no.
He's not resident then?
No, I will gladly go to Hayview, sir, if you wish. Indeed, I am on my way there now to post a letter.
You are not a servant at the house, are you?
I'm the governess.
The governess, are you?
I am Jane Eyre.
Well then, Jane Eyre, I cannot commission you to fetch help for me, but you may help me a little yourself if you'd be so kind. If I'm not mistaken, my horse has gone no further than that quarry. If you can help me hobble close, I can get back on the saddle.
Kitty, Leah, John!
Whose is the dog that's faster in the yard?
The master's back,
Mr. Rochester?
and he's had an accident.
Mr. Rochester?
His horse slipped in this time of year. Heavens, it's nothing serious. In fact, it's afraid the most, but put us all at 6 and 7. Well, he wants to take his dinner in his room or in the dining room. And he wants to take him by himself or with the surgeon. Will someone make those dogs stop barking? Oh, Leah, I'll take that. He'll give me a call to go to his chamber. We do know some of his intentions for tomorrow. He'd like it if you and your people would take tea with him.
Of course, ma'am.
Here's Miss Eyre, sir.
Let Miss Eyre be seated.
Take him in.
Did you expect a present, Miss Eyre? Are you fond of presents?
I hardly know, sir. I have little
Generally.
to give time to such a question, sir, before venturing an answer. The reasons being in...
Hated as Adele, Miss Eyre. She always demands a cadeau the moment I set foot in the house. You're more inclined to beat about the bush.
With good reason, sir. Adele and yourself are old acquaintances. You are in the habit of giving her playthings. You and I have just met. I have done nothing to deserve a present.
Oh, come, Miss Eyre, false modesty doesn't suit you at all. I've been speaking with the child. I'm amazed at how much she has improved under your tutelage.
Thank you, sir. You have given me my present. It is when all teachers crave praise at their pupils' progress.
Where were you before you came to Thornfield?
At Lowood School.
Isn't that a charitable concern? How long were you there?
8 years.
8 years? You must have an inner strength, Miss Eyre. I would have sworn that half that length of time would have broken the spirits of a full-grown man, let alone a frail thing such as yourself. No wonder you have a look of another world. I marveled where you got that sort of face, and I'm not decided yet. Who are your parents?
I have none, sir.
Do you remember them?
No.
Well, if you disown your parents, you must have some sort of kinsfolk, uncles, aunts.
None that I have ever met.
And your home?
I have no home either, sir.
Who recommended you to come here?
I advertised, and Mrs. Fairfax answered that advertisement.
And I give thanks to Providence every day for guiding me in that decision. Miss Eyre's not only proved herself as a kind and careful teacher to Adele, but a caring companion for myself.
There's no need to give her character, Miss Fairfax. I'm capable of making up my own mind. What age were you when you went to Lowood?
10 years and 3 months.
You were there for 8 years. Then you were 18, for without it by looking at you. What did you learn at Lowood? Can you may mean anything or nothing? Adele returned to the nursery and I have business to attend to. I bid you all good night.
You spoke truthfully, Mrs.
Yes, and one must be prepared to make allowances.
Why?
Partly because it's his nature, partly because he is suffering from private and painful matters.
For several subsequent days, I saw little of Mr. Rochester.
In the mornings, he seemed much engaged with business.
In the afternoon, gentlemen from Millcote or the neighborhood called and sometimes stayed to dine.
After his sprain was well enough to admit of horse exercise, he rode out a great deal, probably to return those visits.
I perceive, Miss Eyre, that you do not draw from nature.
Out of my head.
The same head that is on your shoulders.
Yes, sir.
And has it other...
I have. Better, I should hope.
You've put much time and thought into these. When did you do them?
During my vacation time at Lowood, when I had nothing else to occupy me.
Were you happy when you painted them?
I was absorbed. Yes, I was happy. Painting them provided me with one of the keenest pleasures I have ever known.
There have not been many. And I dare say they took you into a star could have only come from a dream. And who taught you to paint to win? You examine me, Miss Eyre. Do you find me handsome?
No, sir.
By my word, there is something most decidedly singular about you. I've watched you often, sitting, keeping silent. But when someone does force you into saying something, you rap out an answer which, if not blunt, is certainly to the point. Go on, then. If you don't like my looks, tell me what's wrong with them. You'll grant me, at least, that I've all my limbs just as any other man. Suppose I were to play you at your own game and tell you you are not any more pretty than I am handsome.
No.
Young lady, not this afternoon. This afternoon I'm in the mood for conversation. It would please me to learn more about you. Speak.
What about, sir?
Why, whatever you like. I leave both the choice of subject and the manner of treating it entirely to yourself.
I am more than willing to talk to you, sir, but don't ask me to introduce the subject. How am I to know what will interest you? You ask the questions, and I will do my very best to answer them.
Very well, then. You've already said you don't approve of my looks. Do you also think me a fool?
Far from it.
Or even a villain?
No, sir. I have even heard you referred to as being both fair and just.
Whoever told you that, Miss Eyre, is a downright lie. Once, perhaps, when I was your age, I had a tenderness of heart. But I've suffered too much since then. What fate has handed to me has turned me into a desperate man, even degenerate. I wish I'd stood firm against it. God knows I do. Whenever you are tempted to life's poison.
Repentance is said to be its cure, sir.
But since happiness is denied me, I plan to take nothing but pleasure from life.
Then you are degenerate still more, sir.
Perhaps. Perhaps not. One sweet and as fresh as the honey the bee. How would you know? You have never tried it. Serious, solemn girl. Why, you could laugh as merrily as anyone, but in the presence of a man, Miss Eyre, you are afraid to smile too gaily, to speak too freely, to move too quickly. But in time I think you will be natural with me. Sometimes you have the look of a wild bird peering through the close-set bars of a cage. If only someone would set you free, you would soar cloud high. Where are you going?
The afternoon is gone.
There's something else I wish to speak to you about. Do you ever wonder about the true identity of Adele Weyrens?
That she is more than your ward, sir. That she is your daughter.
I loved her mother. Yes, years ago. Celine Weyrens was afraid of dating another Miss Eyre. No, because you have never felt love. Years later, she ran off to Italy with a musician or singer or something, leaving the woman training out of the slime and mud of Paris and brought it here.
Hardly the deed, sir, of a degenerate man.
But now that you have learned that your protege is the illegitimate offspring of a French opera girl, you will think differently of your post. You will soon be coming to me saying you have found another place.
No, sir. If anything, quite the opposite. Now that I know that she is parentless, deserted by her mother and disowned by you, sir, I shall hold her more dearly than before.
I like this day. Sky of steel. I even dare to say I like Thornfield. Oh, how long I've hated its very name. How much hatred is still there for. appreciate it if you would not discuss this matter with anyone else, not even Miss Fairfax.
If it is your wish, sir. Good night, then.
What, you will go? You're mutual strangers. I knew from the very moment that I set eyes on you that it was not mere chance that directed you towards me. I knew. When I looked into your eyes, there was something deep that pulled at my innermost heart. Now I owe you my...
I'm only glad that I happened to be awake, sir. Good night again.
You will go?
I am cold, sir.
Cold. Yes, forgive me. Go then, Jane. Go.
I think I hear Mrs. Fairfax returning, sir.
Leave me then.
She succeeded in escaping, sir, but safety locked inside her room.
I give thanks that there was not more damage done.
Has anybody said?
He fell asleep by all accounts with a candle burning and his window open. Draught must have tugged at the bed curtains.
Good morning, Miss Eyre. Good morning, Leah. Good morning, Mrs. Poole. Mrs. Poole, last night's party, did no one...
The servants sleep so far off that they wouldn't have heard, and Mrs. Fairfax said you heard nothing. Did you hear any noise?
Yes, I heard someone laughing.
Laughing, miss. It would hardly likely to be the master.
Mrs. Poole.
No, miss. And you didn't think to open your door and look out on the gallery?
I did. There was no one there.
You do best to keep it shut, miss, and bolted. We've never had any robbers in as yet. It's a quiet enough neighborhood as any. But there's always a first time for everything. And there aren't that many servants kept here with the master spending so much time away.
Yes, Miss Fairfax?
The servants' dinner will be ready soon. Will you come down?
I've got my pint of porter and a bit of pudding. I shan't want for more.
Spring is on its way at last. Weather's broken just in time for Mr. Rochester's journey.
Is Mr. Rochester going away?
He has gone already. He breakfasted early this morning, left before dawn.
Do you expect him back tonight?
No, not tomorrow neither. We can walk. Lots of guests there this time of year. The dancing that will be in the valley. The sister, and on.
You seen her, Mrs. Fairfax? What is she?
The house is all lit up and decorated. They let the servants in to watch the dancing and listen to the ladies sing and play, but all the women were beautiful, but there was no denying. Miss Blanche was queen.
Will there be dancing, Mrs. Fairfax?
Make the best match.
There they are.
She is greatly admired, of course.
Yes, indeed. Not only for her beauty, but for her accomplishments.
Wasn't she one of the ladies who sang earlier?
Yes, she and Mr. Rochester sang a duet.
Mr. Rochester? I was not aware that he could sing.
Oh yes, he has a fine bass voice and an excellent taste for music.
And this beautiful, accomplished lady, she is not yet married?
It would appear not. I fancy neither she nor her sister have very large fortunes.
Old Ingram's estates were chiefly entailed, and the eldest son came in for almost everything.
I wonder if no wealthy nobleman or gentleman has taken a fancy to her.
Mr. Rochester, for instance. He's rich, is he not?
Yes, but you see there is a considerable difference in age.
Mr. Rochester is nearly 40. She's but 25.
What of that? More unequal matches are made every day.
Hey, such a love.
Look at yourself, Jane Eyre. For shame. Did you imagine for one moment that he was taken with you? Did you believe for a single second that there was something about you that might please him? Him? You? Whatever did you think you were? What did you imagine you were about? I'll tell you what you're going to do, lady. Now, this instant, you're going to take out your sketch and chalking paper, and you're going to look into the mirror, which tells no secrets, and you're going to draw your face as it is, truthfully and faithfully, with no deceit, and
then you are going. Then you will take out your pastels and draw a second portrait, a picture of the loveliest face you can conjure, a woman not only of beauty but of titled rank, and you will write underneath it simply large. And then in the days to come, if you should chance to think that Mr. Rochester might be taken with you, you will take out both pictures and compare them, and say to yourself, Jane Eyre, that Mr. Rochester might probably win the heart of the lovely young woman. But is it even possible that he would spend a moment's thought on a poor, plain servant girl?
They're coming, they're coming!
Where are they now?
They just passed through Millcote. I caught sight of the carriages and came over the hill. They'll be arriving any minute.
See that the room is ready. You come back quickly and help Kitty with the luggage.
Yes, ma'am.
Are all the bedrooms there and they all have fresh linen?
There's warming piles of clean sheets, ma'am. And cook says to tell you that the baby lamb is well nigh roasted and will have past 7 in soup for the soup.
Tell cook she must serve at dinner when Lord Ingram wants it, not when Bessie's cook. Not now, Kitty, they're here.
The next time I go by coach, Theo, I shall not go by coach. If I deign to go at all but follow Blanche's and Mr. Rochester's exact way, travel behind the vehicle on horseback.
There are more than 30 miles between Gorstone and Thornfield, Mamma, and I feel that horse riding is a young person's prerogative.
And traveling by coach is punishment for the aged. A saddle pelisse is fashioned to fit one's figure. That coach seat is as hard and as flat as a poor house bench.
It's true, Theo. I swear that coachman went out of his way to jolt us along every rutted cop track he could lay will to. I would have ridden with Blanche and Mr. Rochester myself, had Blanche not intimated my company wasn't wanted.
But I prefer a grown man's company, Mr. Rochester. Young men today are such poor, puny things, not fit to stir a step beyond Papa's gates, nor go that far without Mamma's permission. Young men would displease me.
I give thanks to God, then, madam, that I do not fit into that category. For to suffer a frown from you would be sufficient substitute for capital punishment.
Who's the little puppet over there?
Isn't that Mr. Rochester's ward, the little French girl that he told us of?
Mr. Rochester, I thought you were not fond of children.
Nor am I.
Then what induced you to take charge of such a little doll as the one over there? Where did you pick her up?
I did not pick her up. She was left on my hands.
You should have sent her to school.
I could not afford it. Schools are dear.
But governesses do not come cheap, and I felt sure I saw one in attendance. Yes, there she is. I should think you'd be obliged to pay this person to bring the child to school. More so because you also have her to clothe and feed.
I've never given the matter a moment's thought.
Nor ever will, I suppose. You men never do consider economy and common sense. You should hear Mama on the subject of governesses. Don't ask me to speak upon the subject. Simply to consider them affords me nervous palpitations. The time I've wasted in interviewing, employing, and dispensing with their services. We had a German governess once, Mr. Rochester. A large, strict woman. Theodore never quite got over that person's ministrations, did you, Theo?
Did you speak, Mamma?
You see, I've been a martyr to the incompetence and caprice of governesses. I only thank heaven I'm not required to concern myself with them any longer.
Mama, she's listening.
Don't be. I hope she is. I trust that she may have heard something that may prove of benefit. I've been studying her carefully. I'm an excellent judge of a person's character, Mr. Rochester, by their physical appearance. And in her, I see all the defects of her class.
And what are they, madam?
I will whisper them in your ear. Or better yet, ask Blanche, for she is nearer to you than I.
Pray, do not refer him to me, Mamma. I have one word, and one word only, on the subject of governesses.
My Lilyflower, as always, you're absolutely right.
We used to tease some governesses dreadfully, didn't we, Betta? Do you remember Madame Joubert? We tormented the very life out of that woman. I can see her now. We drove her to tears. Do you remember those days, Betta?
Yes, to be sure I do.
We drove her to distraction.
No more than the cantankerous crone deserved attempting to teach such clever blades as we were, when she was but a common ignoramus.
I remember Madame Joubert. A small, plain, ordinary person, wasn't
Extremely ordinary.
I find it peculiar how looks are so important to a woman. And yet, be nothing in a gentleman, the reverse of any. When I marry, I do not want a man who is my rival, but a foil to me. When I walk into the room on his arm, him.
If you were to marry Adonis, madam, it would be his lot to go through life unnoticed.
As if payment for that pretty compliment, I were to offer to play for you. Would you sing for me?
I could not refuse. But in a moment, if you'll excuse me, I thought I heard a carriage in the drive. Jane, how are you?
Very well, sir.
What have you been doing while I've been gone?
Nothing particular, teaching Adele as usual.
You're getting a good deal paler. What's wrong?
Nothing, sir. Nothing at all.
Did you catch a chill last night? You saved my life.
Not in the least.
Come back into the drawing
I
room.
am tired, sir.
And a little more than sad. Tell me why.
Nothing, sir. I'm not sad at all.
But I say that you are. So much so that it would take a little more to bring tears to your eyes. In fact, they are there now, shining in some sun.
Sir, there's a gentleman here to see you.
I'm expecting no one. Who is he?
He's been here before, sir, while you were away. If you will not give his name, then why tell me now?
But you're overseas, man.
I was until a month ago. I deemed it best to keep my identity secret till you and I were face to face.
This way.
He's in order.
Why did they send me so far and so lonely? Up where the boys ran, and my heart turned, and dying just steps of a poor child.
What is it? What's wrong? Nothing's amiss, man. Get back upstairs.
My missus said come down. She's up there with her head in the bed covers right now.
Then go back now and assure her. Assure everyone, guests and servants, if there is nothing untoward.
Yes, sir.
Is it Robert or Rochester? I've told the girls to lock themselves in Mamma's room for safekeeping.
It is no more than a rehearsal for much ado about nothing. The servant in the West Wing suffered a nightmare. The ladies may sleep safe and soundly in their beds.
In my opinion, sir, for what it's worth, a servant who suffers nightmares is a servant too well fed.
Fetched everything I asked for. Sponge, bandages, smelling salt.
I think so, sir.
Do not turn sick, Jane, at the sight of blood.
I think I shall not. I have never been tested.
Hold my hand. That's not to risk a fainting fit. Over here. You are all right? Take this.
What happened to him? Will he recover?
No doubt of it. It is by no means fatal. But I must staunch the bleeding and get him to a surgeon.
She's gone for me.
Not a whit. Give it a fortnight and you'll be no worse for the encounter.
She bit me, Rochester. She was like an animal.
I warned you not to go near her on your own.
I thought it might do some good.
Thought!
She was so calm at first. She sucked at the blood. I swear I wish to God I could forget it.
You will, once you're out of the country. Then you may think...
I shall never be able to put this night from my memory.
It will soon be morning too, and I must get him to a surgeon before the house begins to stir. Sponge the bleeding if it starts up.
If it is what you would have me do, sir.
I would also have you keep your silence. Mason! If you so much as say a single word to this girl while I'm gone, it will be at the peril of yours, and I will not answer for the consequences. Jane, you are a mercy to me.
This done, he moved with a slow step and abstracted air towards the door in the wall bordering the orchard.
Jane, Miss Fairfax said you'd come outside. Do you like me? I find the house as oppressive as a dungeon.
On the contrary, sir. I am generally very happy when I am inside its walls. How is the gentleman?
In excellent hands. He will not be coming back once he's recovered.
And will Grace Poole remain here still?
If you'll trust me, Jane, you will put last night's episode out of your thoughts.
And the night she set your bed ablaze as well, sir. It seems to me that as long as she is inside this house, your life is in danger.
Whenever my life is in turmoil, Jane, it seems yours also gets involved. Do you hate me for it?
Hate you? No, sir. I like to serve you and obey you in all that is right.
What cold hands. They were warmer last night when I held them.
I think we should talk of what is in the future, sir, not what is in the past.
What about the future?
I've been as good as informed that you are going to be married.
Yes? And?
If that is the case, Adele must go to school, and I must advertise.
Advertise?
I'm sure you must see the necessity of that.
You shall walk the pyramids of Egypt before you advertise.
Yes, sir, I shall have it advertised, and immediately. Until then, I ask that I may be allowed to stay here, until I find another shelter to take myself to.
Lady Ingram knows of a situation which I think would suit. In Connaught Island.
It is a long way off, sir.
No, but a girl of your spirit will not object to the voyage, or the distance.
No, sir, but the sea will seem a huge barrier to this house. And
Well?
from you, sir, I hate the thought of leaving here. I have been happier here than I've ever been. I have met you, and it frightens me, terrifies me. I know I have to go. I know it surely is. I should rather die than go away from here.
Then why go?
Because you give me no option, sir.
What have I done?
How can I stay here and know that I mean nothing to you? What must you think of me? What do you think of me? Do you think that because I am what I am, because I am plain, and because I have no money, that I'm also lacking a heart? You, Mr. Rochester, if God had given me half of Blanche Ingram's looks, let alone his situation, I should have made it just as hard for you to turn your back on me as it is for me to turn and walk away from you. I wish to God we could have met as equals.
But we are equals, Jane. Me your mouth.
No. So you're a married man as good as, and not only that, but marrying someone who is in no way you have no regard for her. Why then? I couldn't even contemplate marrying someone I had no regard for. No, sir, we are not equals, but you misjudge me. You misjudge me, you underestimate me. I am a human being with a mind of my own.
Be free to use it then, Jane. Decide for yourself your own destiny. I offer you my hand. I offer you my heart. I offer you half of everything I own.
Don't try to play games with me.
No games. I'm asking you to go through life, your hand in mine.
How can you? You have already made that same self-offer to someone else. Shall there be three of us then, walking hand in hand along life's byways?
Jane, look at me. Turn to me.
Your bride-to-be stands between us.
My bride-to-be stands before me. She is my equal. She is my flesh, my very being. Jane, will you marry me?
If you truly mean it, sir.
Yes, I swear it to
And
you.
sincerely want me for your wife?
I ache for you.
Yes, sir. Yes, I will marry you.
Give me my name. Say, Edward, I will marry you.
Dear Edward. Yes, yes, I will marry you, and happily, with all my heart.
Then come to me, Jane. Come to me entirely. Jane Eyre, soon to be Jane Rochester. In 4 weeks and not a day longer, you shall be my wife.
Welcome home, sir.
Where's Miss Eyre?
She retired to her room, sir. She waited after your return, but it's been a long day for her, and even longer day ahead of her tomorrow. If you'll excuse me, there's a dozen more things I've yet to attend to. The Sabbath that was faithfully promised never came, and the game that did come has not yet been hung. Oh, Kitty, those are intended for the morning room. I'll show you where.
Jane!
Who's there?
I'm home, Jane!
One moment.
I thought to find you waiting for me. Have you not missed me?
I have missed you. Oh, how I've missed you. I've wanted you. But I thought to keep you waiting until you take me to the church tomorrow.
This turned into a cool but pleasing night. How is my Jane?
As you can see, sir, the night is serene, and so am I.
Are you ready for tomorrow?
More than ready.
And after the service, I shall whisk you away to places much nearer to the sun. Paris, Rome, Naples, all the places that I have once wandered as a footloose bachelor. I shall revisit with an angel as my companion.
I am not an angel. I will be myself. You must not expect anything celestial of me, and I will do the same for you. You must neither of us be disappointed in the other.
What do you expect from me?
For a while, I'll expect you to be as you are now. But only for a little while. And then I expect you to turn cool. I will not know what to think of you, and I will find it hard to please you. But Then, after you've grown used to me and being with me, you'll begin to like me. Like me, I say, not to love me. Love will come later.
And you suppose that I do not love you now? Come to me and let me prove to you how much I love you.
I should rather be excused, sir.
You have been acting like this these past few weeks. As slippery as an eel, yet as thorny as a briar rose. I haven't been able to lay a finger near you without getting pricked.
Perhaps I have behaved intentionally so, sir. For there's more to me as you must surely learn than soft, compliant womanhood. I feel it only fair to know what sort of bargain you're struck before it's too late to turn your back on me.
Wild horses wouldn't keep me from the church tomorrow.
Good. And after that happy day, neither of us will close the bedroom door on one another again. But until then, I must bid you a very dear good night, sir.
Good night, Jane.
I love him more than life itself, but I will not allow my marriage to flounder in a sea of sentiment. It has not been easy these past few weeks behaving the way I have, for it has kept me rather silent and moody. He's becoming my entire world. But if we are to go through life together, not just as man and wife, but as equal partners, there must be more to the relationship than tender words and kisses. For while there's place for both of those, there is also room for serious conversation and mutual respect.
It was not Miss Fairfax. It was not Leah, you say? It was not Mrs. Poole?
No, sir. Most certainly it was not Mrs. Poole.
And not one of you ladies saw or heard anything untowards last night?
Apart from hearing Miss Eyre cry out, sir, nothing. When I heard no further sound, I took it she must have suffered a nightmare and went back to sleep myself.
A wise assumption it would seem, Miss Fairfax.
I peered out into the corridor, sir, when I heard the scream, but there was no one there and I could swear.
Not even Miss Eyre shouting. But then, my room's not so close to hers. Besides, once I dropped off, you could drive a horse and carriage through my bedchambers and I wouldn't so much as stir.
Thank you, ladies. You may go about your duties. There's a busy day ahead for all of us.
With regards to the arrangements, sir, when you and Miss Eyre, Mrs. Rochester, she will be dead, returned from the church.
See to it that our luggage has been...
I'll tell you that, sir.
It was not a dream, Edward, and I can willingly swear to that.
In which circumstance, Jane, if it was not also a servant that came into your room, who or what do you suppose that it was? A ghost, perhaps?
Perhaps. I have never seen any living thing like it. It had thick, dark hair running long down its back, and a savage face with deep-set, bloodshot eyes blazing under thick black eyebrows.
A savage face, with deep-set eyes, elusive face.
It was not a dream, sir.
It was not a ghost. It was not a person that either of us have ever seen. And yet you saw it.
Leaning over me as I awoke, with the veil I was to wear today thrown over its head.
And then?
And then took the veil off its head and ripped it hard apart. And for the second time in my life, I lost consciousness out of sheer, stark terror.
What did you do?
I got out of bed, I took a drink of water. I was calm, I had no fever. I know what I had seen. It was not a dream, sir.
Perhaps not. And then again, perhaps.
I know it was not a dream. The veil was ripped in two pieces. Is that a dream? Did a dream cause that to happen?
Give thanks it was only the veil that suffered.
I did dream last night, Edward. A nightmare that seemed almost as awful as the awful reality that followed it.
Yes?
I dreamed that Thornfield Hall was gone, except for a ruined shell, a place of rats and bats and owls. I dreamed that I was wandering through its empty walls looking for you, and carrying a child in my arms, a child that I could not, must not put down, no matter how heavy it grew. I knew it was your horse, and that you were you before you went. I went outside and tried to climb an ivy-covered wall, but the branches gave way beneath me. And when finally I managed to struggle to the top, I saw you then astride your horse, but hardly more than a speck in the distance. Shook the very stones the wall was built from, and then the walls started to fall, and the stones crumbled, and the child was clinging to me, almost wrapped around my neck in terror, and then it fell, and then I too fell.
When you saw the creature?
And that was when I saw the creature in my room.
The dream was but a dream, Jane.
It seemed so real.
Thornfield Hall is here. It is no room. And I am here. The wild horses would not drag me from your side. Let alone would I ride away by my own free will. Would I go without a kiss? Without so much a word?
Not at this moment.
Not ever, Jane, not ever. For today is the day we are to be joined together for all time. And once we are man and wife, Jane Eyre, no more of these wild nightmares will come. That I promise.
And what of that which was not a dream, sir?
Once we have been married for a year and a day, I promise I will tell you. But not now. Let us not waste a moment longer. Have Leah help to dress you quickly, and then let us go to the church and quit this place.
I cannot go to church without something on my head.
Then choose a bonnet. There'll be nobody else in the church to see what you are wearing, save for the clergyman and his clerk, and I doubt there will be too much concern. As for myself, Jane Eyre, I have to look no further than your face to know that I love you. Quickly, Jane. John! John!
Down now, sir, and the horses are being harnessed.
Good. We shall not want it to go to the church, but it must be waiting here ready when we return.
Yes, sir.
Is that understood?
Yes, sir.
Then attend to it, man. Jane, make haste!
Stand still, Miss Jane, do. My hands are fair shaking with excitement, and I shall likely stick a pin in you if you don't stop fidgeting. There.
How is it, Leah? Will I do?
You make as bonny a bride as I ever saw. And that's a fact. Don't take my word for it. See for yourself.
Is it me?
Oh, Mademoiselle, Reverend, treasure.
Jane, are you ready?
To wait for it were Marshall. None but Mr. Rochester and I. Miss Fairfax stood at the end of the halls we passed. I would fain have spoken to her, but my hand was held by a grasp of iron. I was hurried along by a stride I could hardly follow. To look at Mr. Rochester's face was to feel that not a second of delay.
The other bridegroom ever looked as he did.
So bent up the puppet, so grimly resolute.
Or who, under such steadfast brows, revealed such flaming and flashing eyes.
I gazed neither on sky nor earth. My heart was with my eyes. Bolting fled into Mr. Rochester's frame.
We entered the quiet and humble temple.
All was still.
Here, in the sight of God, and in holy matrimony, which is an honorable estate, instituted of God in the time of man's innocency, signifying unto us the mystical union that is between Christ and his church. Therefore, it is not to be enterprised upon by any, lightly, wantonly, or unadvisedly, but soberly, discreetly, advisedly, reverently, and in the fear of God. Wherefore, I require and charge ye both, as you will answer at the dreadful day of judgment, when the secrets of all hearts shall be revealed, that if either of you know any impediment as to why ye should not be joined together, ye do now confess it. Or ye be well assured that so many who are joined together other than God's work does allow are not joined by God, and neither is their marriage lawful. Edward Rochester, wilt thou have this woman to be thy
marriage cannot continue. I declare the existence of an impediment.
Proceed.
I cannot proceed without some investigation of this allegation, either to prove it true or false. What is the nature of this impediment? Perhaps it can be explained away or got over.
Hardly. I would say that it is insuperable, and I speak advisedly. It consists in the existence of a previous marriage. Mr. Rochester already has a wife.
Who are you?
My name is Briggs. I'm a solicitor in practice in Leadenhall Street, London.
And you would thrust a wife on me?
I would seek, sir, to remind you of her existence, which the law recognizes if you do not. I would further seek, sir, to jog your memory further. I affirm, Edward Rochester, to my sister, Bertha Antoinetta, daughter of my father Jonas and of his wife Antoinetta, a Creole, at St. Winifred's Church, Spanish Town, Jamaica. A copy of it is now within my possession. This witness bears a signature
that, if it is a genuine document,
it has been duly testified, sir, under oath.
Then it may prove that I have previously been married, but it does not prove that the woman named as my wife is still alive.
She was alive 3 months ago.
Prove it.
The gentleman who has sworn this affidavit is my witness to that fact.
Produce him then, or go to hell, man!
I will produce him first. Mr. Mason, please step forward.
What have you to say? I ask you again, what do you have to say? The devil is in it if you cannot speak!
Sir, I should remind you that you're in the house of God. Do you stand, sir, by this sworn statement that this gentleman already has a wife and that she is living still?
Courage, Mr. Mason, speak up.
He has. She is. He is married to my sister and she is alive. She's in Thornfield Hall.
Thornfield Hall? I have served this parish for many years, sir, and have never heard mention of a Mrs. Rochester at Thornfield Hall.
No. My God, I took. Take off your stole. There will be no wedding. Exist. You can say that she exists. But whether or not she fits the description of a wife is a totally different matter. But that we will argue later. Briggs, Wood, Mason, I invite you all to come up to my house and meet Grace Poole's patient. You will there meet the woman that I was cheated into espousing and decide for yourself on whether or not I had the right to break it. But mark, that this girl knew no more than you would of this disgusting secret. Come. All of you.
Still holding me fast, we left the church. 3 gentlemen came after.
At the front door of the hall, we found the carriage.
We passed on and ascended the stairs, he still holding my hand and beckoning the gentlemen to follow.
John! See to it that the horses are unharnessed and the coach returned to the coach house. It will not be needed on this day. Back to your duties. Away with your congratulations. Who wants them? Not I. They are 15 years too late.
We are tolerable, sir, thank you. Rather snappish this morning, but quite enough at the moment.
Gentlemen, this is my wife, whom I married 15 years ago. Bertha Mason by name, and as you can see, she is quite mad. Bigamy is an ugly word, gentlemen, but yes, I do admit that I intended bigamy. It is fate that has outmaneuvered me. I tell you again that this is my wife, and this is what I wish to have. This quiet girl standing so grave at the mouth of hell watching the ravings of an incurable.
We had better leave here.
Go to the devil!
And thus Jane Eyre, who yesterday was loved, Christmas frost has come at midsummer, a white December storm whirls over June, a frozen shroud lies over corn, hayfield and lanes which yesterday blushed full of flowers are today pathless with untrodden snow. My hopes are dead.
Miss Eyre, you've been found totally innocent in this matter.
Do you imagine, sir, that such an announcement can ease my pain?
At least your uncle may be glad to hear it when I tell him.
My uncle? Do you know him?
I have enjoyed his acquaintance on occasion for several years. By pure good fortune, I happened to be with him in Madeira on my way back to Jamaica when you received your letter informing him of your impending marriage.
Your uncle, astonished and distressed when Mr. Mason told him of the truth, he would have come himself to jest. Now, there's nothing here that need to detain us more, is there, Mr. Mason?
Nothing. Let us be known.
I had not expected to find you like this.
How had you expected to find me?
Tears. Perhaps both.
I had half expected that of myself.
You know that I am a scoundrel, Jane.
Yes, sir.
Then tell it to my face. Do not spare me.
I cannot.
Do you ever forgive me?
No. Not that.
What then? What next? Do we continue to live here under the same roof but as strangers to one another? That man nearly made me his mistress. Is that what you will tell yourself? But from this day forward, I shall be ice and rock to him. In which circumstance, Jane, ice and rock you will become.
The situation has changed, sir, and therefore I must change to meet the situation.
Changed how? Go back to what we were before? Myself as master and you as governess.
That neither, sir. Adele must have a new governess. I cannot stay here.
Nor I. I shall find a school for her. I will give Miss Poole £200 a year to live here with my wife. Or at least that's how it seems you choose to view the wretched creature.
How I choose to view her is of little consequence, sir. It is the hatred that which you hold in your...
And you suppose that it is because she is mad that I hate her?
Can there be any other reason?
You misjudge me, Jane. Do you also suppose that if you were mad, I should also hate you?
I do indeed, sir.
Then you know nothing about me. Every particle of your flesh is as dear to me as my own. In pain and sickness, it would be just as dear. Your mind is mine to treasure, and if it were crazed, it would be mine to treasure still. If you were to fly at me, as wildly as that woman did this morning, claw at me and bite me, I would hold. But why? Why must we speak of madness when our talk should be of putting madness behind us? I have a house in the south of France, a whitewashed villa on the shores of the Mediterranean. You shall be Mrs. Rochester, and as long as I live, there will be nobody other than you.
No, sir. You already have a wife. You admitted to that fact this morning.
But Jane, if you love me still,
yes.
you will...
Yes, I think I love you more now than I have ever done. That is the last time you will hear me say those words. I have already told you I must leave you.
I tell you that you should not!
God help
I forbid it! Silly. I keep insisting to you that I want you for my wife, yet I have not told you why I think I have the right to do so. Will you listen to me?
Yes, sir. Perhaps, if you wish it.
I only ask for minutes. Have you heard that my father was a greedy man?
I have heard rumors to such effect since I have been here.
It was his decision that I make a wealthy marriage. When I left college, I was sent out to Jamaica where a bride had already been chosen for me. He did not tell me that I was marrying into money, only that my fiancée was the boast of Spanish town for her beauty. This was no lie. But before the marriage, I was seldom allowed to see her on her own. I had very little private conversation with her. But, gross, groveling blockhead that I was, I married her. I had been told that her mother was dead, but after the honeymoon I soon found out that she was not dead, but in fact locked away in an asylum, and there was previous history of madness in the family. Jane, I lived with that woman for 4 years, and each day by day, I watched her lose her sanity.
And when she was totally mad?
Then I feared for my own sanity. It was one West Indian night in May when I was awakened by her screaming, the air like sulphur streams, the buzzing of mosquitoes in the room, her curses ringing in my ears. I knelt down in my trunk and pulled out a brace of pistols, intending to kill myself. This is not life, this is hell, I said, and I had every right to deliver myself from it.
And yet, you are still here.
I listened to the voice of hope, telling me to bring her back to England.
And when you settled her here, what did you do? Where did you go?
What did I do? I transformed into a will-o'-the-wisp. Where did I go? Where didn't I go? Around the continent, mostly. It was there that I met Weyrens, and there were other women, too. You think me an unprincipled rake, don't you?
I don't like you as well as I've sometimes done, I admit. Didn't it seem wrong to you, sir, to live your life like that, first with one mistress, then with another? You talk of it now as if it were a matter of course.
It seemed so at the time, but I never really thought of it as living. And in January, a businessman had brought me back to England. When I was riding into Thornfield, I caught a glimpse of a small figure sitting alone on a stile, without a thought in my mind of what that girl would soon come to mean to me.
Nor she of you.
And then, when I took a tumble from my horse, the small, childish figure walked across the yard and helped me to my feet. Since when, Jane? You have become my very life. The days that we have spent walking and talking in this very...
Those times, sir. They are dead and gone.
And buried, Jane! Why must we speak of the past when the present is so much sure? And the future is all we can ask and everything to offer. All that is needed is for you to make one commitment. And I will be yours, Mr. Rochester.
Mr. Rochester, I will not be yours.
You mean to go one way in life and let me go another?
I do.
mean it still?
Yes.
And now?
Yes.
And now?
Yes.
You will go.
I must leave.
Go then. But go only as far as your room and think about all that I have said to you. Most of all, Jane, think of me.
He keep you from all harm and wrong. And most of all, may he reward you well for all your past kindness to me.
Your love is the only reward I ever asked for, Jane. Jane! Jane!
Farewell, Mr. Rochester.
Farewell forever. I never thought to sleep tonight.
But then, when I laid my head upon the pillow,
A slumber fell upon me, and nightmare brought me back to childhood.
I dreamed I was back at Gateshead Hall.
And locked again inside that dreaded red room.
Where amidst the chill air and silence, I became aware of a flickering, trembling light,
playing against its walls and furnishings.
Then suddenly, at its also shape,
What seemed a hand, luminous and unearthly,
parted the deep damask curtains, easing aside their heavy folds.
There, before me, a human form shone against the pitch night.
It gazed upon me,
exquisite and welcome, and spoke to my spirit,
as if it whispered in the very chambers of my heart.
Jane, my child, flee temptation.
Mother, I will. The dawn approached, and I rose and got dressed.
Thank God, and heaven be praised that July nights are shit to do it must be done. I must be out of this house and away from Thornfield before the sun is up, for he will send for me there with me anything that is not rightfully mine to take. Some clean linens, all of which were bought and paid for out of my own accord. This ring is mine, and the locket too belongs to me, but the pearl necklace was a gift from him, when I promised myself to him in marriage, and therefore it must stay here. 20 shillings, which is every penny I possess. He is awake. He has not slept at all. I have heard him through the night pacing his room from wall to wall, but I cannot trust myself to stand in front of him and say, Mr. Rochester, I will love you and live with you through life until death. But that I must not do. I have been walking for over an hour, skirting fields and lanes and hedges. It is a lovely summer morning, but I have looked neither to the rising sky nor the smiling sun. The condemned man, riding to his execution, does not see the flowers blushing by the wayside, but thinks only of the keenness of the executioner's axe, and of the gaping grave. And I have dwelt on cheerless flight, homeless wandering, and, oh, most of all, with the agony of him that I have left behind. May you never feel what I feel now. May your heart never shed such stormy, scalding, heart-wrung tears. May you never appeal to heaven in prayer so agonized and so hopeless as have lately left my lips. May you never, like me, become the sole destroyer of that which you wholly love.
2 days have passed, and I have been set down here by a coachman who could not or would not take me any further, having taken from me as payment every penny I possessed.
Not only that, but I left my case in the coach, where I placed it for safekeeping.
There it remains. There it must remain.
And I am absolutely destitute. What was I to do? Where to go? Oh, intolerable question. There is nothing I can do, and nowhere I can go. When I must walk for miles on my weary, trembling limbs before I can find human habitation. To have my pleas for sympathy refused, even before they are spoken.
I walk for hours,
and just as I am about to collapse exhausted, I hear a bell chime, a church bell.
Human life is near. I must.
Can I get thee anything?
I am to be grateful for thy permission to sit for a moment in the shade.
Yes, Rachel?
2 pounds of baking powder, Mr. Ridley, for my man.
Tell the room management along last occasion what to call him when she's passing. Have you come? Didn't have a name.
Thornfield.
Thornfield. I'm no wiser. Have you far to go?
You wouldn't happen to know of anywhere in this neighborhood where a servant is wanted?
I couldn't say.
What do most folks do?
Farm laboring, and a good many Mr. Oliver's needle factory. Then there's the foundry.
Does Mr. Oliver employ women?
Nay, it's men. Others that. Us poor folk get on as well as we can.
Would you exchange me a bread cake for this handkerchief?
Nay, I don't get into that sort of carry-on.
Perhaps half of
In the first place.
I have this pair of gloves. Will you give that to me?
Ma'am, there's a woman here. What's going to give a piece of scraps you told me to give to the pig? Go on then, let's give them to her. Pig won't know no different. When that's done, get thyself inside before it starts to pelt it down. My strength is quite failing. I feel I cannot go much further.
Shall I be an outcast again this night?
In all likelihood, I shall die before morning.
And why can I not reconcile myself with the prospect of death? Because I believe Mr. Rochester is on this earth still.
And to die of cold when he whom I love still lives is a fate to which I cannot passively submit.
Across the marsh, I take a track which leads me towards the light.
I put my hand out and feel a dark mass before me.
I touch the roughness of the dry stone wall.
A white object looms before me. It's a wicket gate. It moves on its hinges as I touch it.
Oh, Providence, sustain me a little longer.
Soldiers of Christ, arise and put your armor on, strong in the strength which God supplies through His eternal love.
Mary, Diana!
St. John, who is that?
Where has she come from?
I do not know. I found her on the doorstep.
As white as I can clay, she will fall. That's what sins.
Perhaps a little water will restore her and affect some. Oh, but she against the born to nothing.
God be praised, for surely He has guided this unfortunate's footsteps to our door.
A flame of grateful joy flicked inside. I thanked God. Exhausted, I slept.
You'd be far more comfortable on the sofa, Miss Eyre. Come, you must be obedient.
You must be famished as well. You've scarcely eaten these past few days, and another day in bed would not have gone amiss.
I'm fine where I am.
Keep that bread cake to be going on with. Hannah baked it especially for you on the bottom of the oven.
You are very hungry.
I seem to have found my appetite. I trust I will not eat longer at your expense, sir.
You misunderstand me. We have never shrunk from Christian charity. I shall not seek to return you to your relatives or friends until you are considered fully recovered.
I must tell you, sir, I am without either friends. I am. No tie links me to any living thing.
A most singular position, sure. At your age.
St. John.
You've never been married. You were a spinster.
Why, she can't be about 17, 18 years old, St. John.
I am near 19, but I'm not married, no.
And you say you have no parents. Where have you been living?
You must forgive my brother, Miss Eyre. Like all clergymen, he has an insatiable curiosity about private lives.
The place I lived and the person whom I lived with is something I would prefer to keep a secret.
She has the right to do so, brother, if she so wishes.
And if I know nothing about her, Diana, how am I to help her? And you do need help, do you not?
I need help and I seek it, sir. I'm hopeful that someone might help me to find employment sufficient to provide me with the barest necessities of life.
And I'm more than willing to be that person if it is within my power. But I cannot help you if you are not prepared to tell me something about yourself.
Don't make her talk anymore now, St. John. Let her be in peace for a while.
But she will not know peace, Diana, if I am any judge of character, as long as she is dependent upon our hospitality. Is it true, Miss Eyre, that it is not your wish to be reliant upon my sister's compassion or my charity? It is your wish to be independent of us?
It is. It is. Show me how to work or where to work. That is all I ask. But until then, I ask that I may be allowed to stay here
I could not bear one more night without a roof above my head.
Indeed, you shall stay here.
You shall.
My sisters find joy in taking care of you, much the same way they would find joy in taking care of some half-frozen sparrow that the wintry wind had blown in through the casement window. But it is my intention to help you to help yourself, and I shall endeavor to do so.
I should be grateful, sir.
But you must understand, Miss Eyre, I am but the incumbent of a poor country parish. We are not wealthy. My father died but a few short weeks ago when we must needs sell off the house and its contents in order to pay off his debts.
Diana and myself, Miss Eyre, are a start-up employment as governesses to a family St. John has found for us on the south coast.
I perceive you to be a woman of taste and learning, Miss Eyre. If you are inclined to despise the day of small things, I should encourage you to seek more efficient succor than such as I can offer.
She has already told you, St. John, that she is more than ready to do anything she can do.
I will be a dressmaker, a plain workwoman, a nursemaid, a servant even, if I can do no better.
If such is your spirit, Miss Eyre, then I am proven correct. Providence has brought you here. When I came to Morton 2 years ago, there was not a school. The children of the poor were thus denied all hope of progress.
St. John has already started a school for boys.
He now means to open a second school for girls.
There is already a building for the purpose provided by a local factory owner, and there is a cottage attached for the schoolmistress's accommodation. The salary is £30 a year, and the same benefactor will provide for the clothing and education of an orphan.
Mr. Rivers, are you offering me the post of schoolmistress?
If you would not find it degrading.
On the contrary, sir, I thank thee for the proposal. I accept it with all my heart.
Your scholars will be poor girls only. Cottagers' children for the most part, farmers' daughters at best. Knitting, sewing, reading, and writing will be all that you are required to teach.
I understand that fully.
I see that we have something in common, Miss Eyre. We both find it that no service degrades which can better the human race. When will you be ready to take up the appointment?
As soon as I need it.
You're only just this morning risen from a sick bed.
At least wait until you're well again.
I am well enough now. I will go and look at the cottage tomorrow and open the school if it is ready to be opened within the month.
And I shall set off immediately to inform the benefactor that I have found a schoolmistress.
But you have not finished your tea, brother.
At least wait until this weather eases off.
And if I let a little gust of wind or sprinkling of rain keep me from such an easy task, what preparation would such sloth be for the future that I propose for myself?
But you shall stay here with us, Jane, as our guest, as long as we are here, or until your cottage is ready.
Indeed you shall, you shall.
I've been here now for almost 2 months, and already some of my pupils are showing an aptitude for copying out their letters.
I'm hopeful of teaching some of them to read before they leave.
Several of them can knit, and some of them are useful with their needle and thread. Oh, please, miss.
Yes, Annie.
I won't be coming to school tomorrow, miss.
Why not?
My Aunt Beatty's baby died in the fever hospital, miss. They're off to bury it tomorrow.
Sorry to hear that, Annie. I shall expect you back on Wednesday. Hand in your slates, girls. Alice will collect them. Yes, I shall find some happiness here, I know. But there are moments when I cannot help but wonder, what if? Supposing I had chosen another path. Might I be living now in France as Mr. Rochester's mistress? Delirious half the time with his love, and oh yes, he would have loved me well. But what am I saying? And more importantly, what am I feeling? Whether it is better, I ask, to be a slave in a fool's paradise at Marseille, fevered with delusive bliss 1 hour, suffocating with the tears of remorse and shame the next. Or to be a village schoolmistress here in the heart of England.
I've done this.
Thank you, girls. God bless. Yes, I know I was right to choose principle and Christian teachings and to have denied the foolish promptings of a frenzied moment. God directed me to the correct decision, and I thank Providence for that guidance. Oh, but he did love me, as no other man could, and as no other man will ever love me again. Mr. Rivers, I was not expecting anyone.
I'm sorry if I startled you, Miss Eyre. Are you finding the work here harder than you expected?
Not at all. Quite the contrary. I'm getting along very well with my scholars.
Perhaps the accommodation is not what you are used to.
The cottage is clean and weatherproof. The furniture is sufficiently comfortable. You may see it if you wish. There is little in the way of hospitality, but there is bread and butter. I can brew some tea.
No, I came here on a business matter. It's best if we remain where we are. But you are happy then?
Mr. Rivers, I would remind you, it is not long since I had nothing. I was an outcast, a beggar, a vagrant. Now I have a home, friends, employment. Indeed, I wonder at God's goodness and the generosity of others, not least himself. I assure you, sir, I am anything but sad.
Then I should hope you remain in Morton for some months to come.
Well, I mean to. Why should I choose to do otherwise?
Sometimes our circumstances suddenly alter. To be honest, Miss Sarah, I have no idea what you may choose or may choose not to do. You've told me so little about yourself. But as for your past, that which you hold so close to you, it is my fervent hope that you not be guided to yield to that same temptation as Lot's wife, and to yearn for that which you have put behind you.
What makes you think I might choose to do so?
I perceive to read your thoughts, Miss Sarah. Also, your face reveals a depth of sadness akin to one I've not long since suffered.
One that you wish to talk about?
Less than a year ago, I was sure I had made a mistake in entering the ministry. I longed for an active life, that of an author, or an artist, or a politician, even a fighting man. Anything, in fact, rather than a priesthood. I felt my life so empty, so meaningless, that if I could not, did not change it, I had no desire to go on living.
And then?
And then, Miss Eyre, I spoke to God. Or rather, I should say, God spoke to me. He called me to fulfill an errand, one that would not only give me purpose in life, but would demand of me the individual requirements of all those professions I envied. Soldier, statesman, orator. I would need all this and more, Miss Eyre, in order to do what God had called me to.
What calling, Mr. Rivers, requires such diversity of talents?
The Lord God required me to be a missionary, Miss Eyre. And from the moment he issued the call, I have rarely given thought to anything else.
And yet you're not a missionary, Mr. Rivers.
My father was opposed to it. I respected the wishes of a dying man, but now that he is gone, there is nothing to deter me in my resolve. There are still a few matters to be settled from the will, and a new incumbent to be appointed in the parish, and then...
Are you expecting someone?
I'm sorry. I got so wrapped up in my own ambitions, I forgot my main purpose in coming. The business matter of which I first spoke.
Is it school business?
No, Miss Eyre, your own. Coming, it was my suggestion that this man come here. I told you your past life might catch up.
Is it Mr. Rochester?
No, it is not your Mr. Rochester.
Mr. Briggs.
Good afternoon, Miss Eyre.
You sought out this man. You have made inquiries about my past life before I came here.
On the contrary, Miss Eyre, it is I who sought you out and found you entirely by coincidence.
But I've been a topic of subsequent conversation.
Mr. Briggs informed me of your previous employment, that of the governess of the ward of Edward Rochester.
Mr. Rivers.
I appreciate your concern, Miss Eyre, but hear me to the end. I deemed it no less than my duty to inform Mr. Rivers of the facts concerning our previous encounter. That Edward Rochester professed to offer you an honorable marriage, and at the very altar you learned there already was a wife. That you were totally innocent in this proposed deceit.
He must have been an evil man.
You know nothing about him, Mr. Rivers. Don't seek to offer false opinions. How is he? What is he doing? Is he well? But you have been to Thornfield Hall. You must have seen him.
No, Miss Eyre, I had merely corresponded.
Who has his letters then? May I have them?
The reply received an answer to my query. It did not come from Mr. Rochester, but from Miss Alice Fairfax. My interest was in you, Miss Eyre, not in your previous employer.
What with you? What with me?
To inform you, Miss Eyre, that your uncle, Robert Summer Eyre, who was resident in Madeira, is dead. You are his only living relative and heiress to all his fortune. You are rich, Miss Eyre.
I'm rich?
There are some small bequests to be deducted, but once everything has been added or taken away, you shall receive somewhere in the nature of £20,000.
You are right. It is a fortune. There is no mistake.
There is no mistake, Miss Eyre.
Perhaps you've read the figures wrong. It may be 2,000.
It is written in letters, not figures, Miss Eyre. £20,000. Now, if you'll excuse me, I shall leave you to digest your sudden change in fortune. I shall be in the district for a few days to take care of matters of business. If you would like my office to attend to this matter, I would be happy to take care of it. Mr. Rivers? Miss Eyre?
Oh, I am glad. I am glad. Did you know about this? Are you happy for me?
I was aware you had been mentioned in your uncle's will. I had no idea it amounted to a fortune. The news comes as more of a shock to me, I think, than to you, for I cannot adhere to the fact that wealth of a necessity brings happiness. In fact, I should fear the opposite. I aspire only for the day where I ascend to my Lord, knowing I had sought happiness in the paths of poverty and obscurity. I am happy for your sake, Miss Eyre, but I cannot say I'm entirely without reservation. But if you are glad...
Not for me, Mr. Rivers. For what this inheritance will help me do. Think of it. We shall all spend Christmas together. We shall send for Mary and Diana from the south of England. There will be you, there will be me, there will be Hannah. We will open up Morehouse again.
No, Morehouse is not just open. It is up for sale.
Good, I shall buy it back. No, We shall buy it back. It shall belong to all of us.
Please tell me where I can get you a glass of water. You really must try to tranquilize your feelings.
Nonsense! You put me quite out of patience. I am rational enough.
You're acting on first impulses. You must take days even to consider such a matter, and then discuss it with your lawyer.
Not when I am incapable of considering any other. I am resolved I shall have a home and connections. These are all I've ever wanted. I like Morehouse. I like Diana and Mary, and I shall tie myself to life for them. It will be your home too when you are done with wandering.
But it is your fortune. You owe us nothing.
I owe you everything. I would have died that night had you not taken me in, and were you to argue with me for a year, I could not deny myself the delicious pleasure of repaying, in part, a mighty obligation and winning myself lifelong friends.
Because you do not know what it is to possess £20,000. You cannot have a notion of the importance that £20,000 can give you.
And you cannot imagine the craving I have for fraternal love. I've never had a home. I've never had a family. These are all I've ever wanted. Don't try to deny me that which I crave most in the world.
But your aspirations after family ties may be otherwise realized. You may meet someone and marry.
Nonsense. I don't want to marry. I shall never marry. My mind is made up. I know what I mean to do.
My first aim will be to clean down Morehouse from chamber to cellar.
My next, to rub it with beeswax, oil, and an indefinite number of clods until it glitters.
Afterwards, I shall attempt to drive us all close to ruin, in coals and peat, to keep up good fires in every room.
Lastly, the few days left to me before your sisters come back home shall be devoted by Hannah and myself to such a beating of eggs,
Sorting of currants,
Grating of spices,
compounding of Christmas cakes,
baking of mince pies,
and solemnizing of other culinary rites as words can convey.
But rest ye merry gentlemen, and nothing you dismay, for Jesus Christ our Savior.
And now that you are woman of means, must the schoolhouse be closed?
I will stay on until after Christmas, until you have found someone to replace me.
And then what? What purpose? What aim? Will you seek nothing more than domestic endearments and household joys?
The best thing the world has.
They're coming, they're coming! Merry Christmas!
So glad to see you.
I missed you. Are you well, brother?
Yes.
Hi! So good to see you. You have to tell
Merry
me all
Christmas.
this now. Diana will be along shortly. Hi! So good to see you.
Good to see you too. St. John, it is Christmas, and Jane has been more than a sister to all three of us. You should kiss her too.
Oysters!
And lobsters.
Fresh yesterday from Whitstable.
Oh, tidings of comfort and joy, comfort and joy. Oh, tidings of comfort and joy.
Oh, tidings of comfort and joy. Let us rest here. I have asked you to accompany me this evening, Jane, because I have some very important news. The final arrangements have been made. I set sail on the 20th of June.
God will protect you, St. John. You are undertaking his work.
Yes, there is my glory and my joy. Jane, come with me to India. Bequeath your wealth. Persuade to charity. Come be my helpmates and my fellow laborer.
St. John, have some mercy.
God intended you for a missionary's wife, and a missionary's wife you must be, shall be.
I'm not fit for it.
Who is?
I have no vocation.
Jane, ever since we met, I've watched you, studied you. You have all the qualities for it and more. You are faithful, diligent, constant, courageous, gentle, and heroic. I can trust you on reserve.
Seek one elsewhere than in me, St. John.
It is what I want. You would never regret marrying me, Jane.
Supposing I would say that yes, I will go with you to India, but as your fellow missionary, not as your wife.
How can you say that?
Because I cannot marry you and become a part of you.
But you must, otherwise everything is void. How can I, a man not yet 30, take with me to India a woman of less than 20 unless she happens to be married to me?
How can you not?
How can we be forever together and unwed?
Because I have no more love for you than you have for me, St. John.
Enough of love would follow after we were married. Jane, I can promise you we can prove to each other that what we did was right. You are born to serve God, not for love.
No, St. John, I will not marry you, and I beg you not to press me further on the subject.
But I must. I feel it to be my duty.
I believe I am bounded by a stronger cord than duty.
I know where your heart looks, Jane, and to what it clings to still. You cannot forget your Edward Rochester, can you? Do you intend to go and find him?
must. I have to know what has become of him.
I thought I'd recognized in you one of God's children. Now all that is left is for me to keep you in my prayers and entreat God on your behalf, and in all earnestness, so that you do not become a castaway. I cannot give you up to perdition. Jane, if I listened to human pride, I would not press you further on the matter. But I do listen to duty, and do all things to the glory of God. Resolve, repent, Jane. God give you the strength to choose the path which is the right one. Could you decide now?
I could decide if I were but certain, if I was sure that it was God's will to have me marry you, come after what it may.
My prayers are heard.
Show me. Show me the path.
Jane. Jane.
What is it? What do you see? What do you hear?
God. What is it? I am coming. Wait for me. Where are you?
Where are you?
Once more on the road to Thornfield, more than a day passed. How fast I walked, how I even ran sometimes.
Another field crossed, a lane threaded.
And then there were the courtyard walls. The rookery still hid the house itself. I determined to view from the front, where its bold battlements will strike the eye at once.
And where I can single out my master's very window.
Perhaps he will be standing at it. Could I but see him?
Surely, in that case, I should not be so mad as to run to him. Then, God bless you, what then?
I looked hesitantly towards the stately house.
I saw a blackened ruin.
A burnt out shell. Silence death about it.
The solitude of a lonesome wild.
Harvest time. Never saw nothing like it. I'll come home at midnight. The house, the lot, furniture. It's a fine place, Thornfield Hall.
I lived here once.
That makes two of us. Always had Groom here. Till he moved across the valley and picked up dry stone walling. That was before they buried the master.
Is Mr. Rochester dead?
Not this one, is it? No, Mr. Rochester. This one's father.
Then Edward Rochester still alive.
We're a mad woman he kept upstairs. By all accounts started it. She ended up on the roof, shouting, screaming, waving her arms about. Her hair caught fire at the death before she chucked herself off the roof. Smashed a knot in the cobblestones.
But Mr. Rochester is well?
If you can call him well. He armed himself in trying to save the mad woman. Got as far as the roof, God knows how, before the flames damn near roasted him and drove him back.
He is in England?
Aye, he is in England. He can't get out of England. He's a fixture. He lost the sight of both of his eyes. And crippled himself. A servant last stopped by to cook and clean and that for him.
Where's his house?
Last one on the other side of the village. The one with the apple trees in the front garden.
There was a little girl. His ward?
School in France. There's an oak missile barn on one side, you can't miss it.
Is it really you, miss? Come at this late hour?
I'll take it to him.
He always has a candle burning when it's dark, though it's not a bit of use to him.
Bring me the water, Leah. This is Leah, is it not?
Leah is back inside the house.
Who is it? Who speaks? Answer me, speak again.
Will you have a little more water, Edward?
What is it? Is it Jane? This is her shape, this is her size.
This is her voice. She is all here, her heart too.
Jane Eyre.
I am come back to you.
It is you. You do not lie dead in some ditch under a stream. You are not a pining outcast among strangers.
No, sir. I am an independent woman now.
Independent? What do you mean?
My uncle Madeira is dead. But he has left me an inheritance. I am my own mistress now.
I have not been so lucky. On this arm I have no hand nor nails. 'Tis a stump. A ghastly sight. You think so, Jane?
It is a pity to see it, and a pity to see your eyes, and the scar of fire burnt upon your forehead. And what is worse, one is in danger of love with you or more for it. Do you have a pocket comb about you, sir?
What for, Jane?
To comb out this shaggy black mane. I find you rather alarming when I examine you at close hand.
Am I hideous, Jane?
Very, sir. You always were, you know.
The wickedness has not been taken from you wherever you have been.
Yet I have been with good people. Far better people, 100 times better.
Who the deuce have you been with?
No one. None that you need be jealous of. Oh, if you knew how much I did love you, you would be proud and content. My heart is yours, sir. It belongs to you.
I am no better than the chestnut tree that was struck down by lightning at Thornfield. What right had the old shell to ask the budding woodbine to cover its rotting bark with freshness?
You are no old shell, sir, no rotting tree. You are green and vigorous. Plants will spring up about your roots, whether or not you ask them, because they delight in your bountiful shadow. They will lean towards you and wind round you, because they take their strength from you.
Are we friends, Jane?
We are. We are.
Ah, but Jane, I want a wife.
Do you, sir?
Yes. Is it unwelcoming news?
Depends on circumstances, sir. On your choice.
Which you shall make for me. I shall abide by your decision.
Choose then, sir, her who loves you best.
I shall choose her at least that I love best. Jane, will you marry me?
Yes, sir.
An old blind man that you have to lead by the hand.
Yes, sir.
A crippled man some 20 years older than you.
Yes, sir.
Truly, Jane.
Most truly, sir.
May God bless you and reward you.
Sir, if I ever thought a good thought, if I ever wished a true wish, if I ever prayed a true and righteous prayer, I'm rewarded now to the finest fiber of my nature.
What time is it?
7:30.
Put it in your girdle and keep it henceforth.
The sun has gone down, but it has dried up all the raindrops. The evening breeze is warm. Shall we go for a walk? How fitting, sir, that I am so much lower in stature than yourself. I serve as both your prop and your guide. I married him.